Hello, I'm Morteza Kordi, and in this tutorial, we are going to learn about super and this keywords. So what does super refer to? Super simply refers to the extended class, to the superclass. Why we use super? It is used inside a subclass method definition to call a method defined in the superclass. So let's talk about super features. Only public and protected methods can be called by the super keyword. It can also be used by class constructors to invoke constructors of its parent class. So let's talk about this. What is this? This refers to an object of a specific type. Why we use this? Mostly, we use this in order to explicitly refer to an instance variable. So now it's time to give you some practical examples so that it will completely make sense. So here, this is my Kotlin file. And you can see this main function. Let's create a class. Let's say that we have an open class, and the name of this class is, for example, Boxer. Let's open and close this class by using these curly braces. So notice that it says that we have a redeclaration. This means that we have another class inside our Kotlin project named Boxer. So let's change this name to Boxer X. So now inside this class, I can create some instance variables. I can say, for example, we have var name string assignment operator, two quotes, and here we can say, for example, var speed or punch speed colon integer assignment operator 0 var punch power colon int assignment operator 0. So these are the instance variables of this Boxer X class. Let's create a method inside this Boxer X class. Let's say that we have a function fun, and the name of this function is throw punch, and then put a pair of parentheses, open and close this method by using these curly braces, println, two quotes. Now we can say, for example, the Boxer is punching. The Boxer is throwing a punch. So here it is my method. Let's create another class. Let's say that we have a class called Kickboxer, and this class inherits from the Boxer X class. Let's open and close this class by using these curly braces. So here we have an error. It says this type has a constructor and thus must be initialized here. So you may know that actually all classes in Kotlin have a default constructor. So here we should actually call the default constructor of this Boxer X class by just actually putting this a pair of parentheses here. So now let's go inside this Kickboxer class, and here, because this Kickboxer class is a Boxer, we are inheriting from this Boxer X class, right? We can actually call this function throw punch from this Kickboxer class. We can say that this Kickboxer class has a method, for example, fun, and the name of this actually method is fight, a pair of parentheses, and then open and close this method by using these curly braces. And here, now we can say super. So super refers to the superclass, right? Dot throw punch. In this way, we are actually accessing the superclass, the Boxer X class, and we are accessing this method throw punch. And here we are calling that method. And after this line of code, I can actually say println, two quotes. For example, now I can say the Kickboxer is fighting. So now notice that this function here is actually a public function, and that's why we can access this function by using the super keyword. The method or the function that you want to use from your subclass must be public or protected. If it is private, we cannot access it. So if I actually put private keyword here we are going to have problem. If I hover over this area, it says cannot access throw punch method. It is private in Boxer X. So let's delete this private keyword. Now let's go inside this main function, and here I can just, for example, create an object of type kickboxer. So here I can say my kickboxer colon kickboxer assignment operator. Let's create an object of type kickboxer. So here I just need to say my kickboxer dot fight. Now if I run the app in the console, here you can see that first it says the boxer is throwing a punch here because we are calling super dot throw punch first, and then it is actually outputting this value to the console. The kickboxer is fighting. So that's how we use super keyword in Kotlin. And now I can actually tell you that, for example, if you want to use the this keyword, we use this keyword in order to explicitly specify that we are referring to our instance variable. So what does that mean? That means that, for example, let's assume that this kickboxer class has a constructor. Let's create a constructor here. Let's say that we have a constructor. So notice that the moment that I actually started to actually create a constructor for this kickboxer class, it's showing us an error. Here it says super type initialization is impossible without primary constructor. So this means that we should actually delete this pair of parentheses here, because we are creating a constructor, a custom constructor for this kickboxer class. And here, let's actually specify some variables. Let's say that we have, so inside this kickboxer class, let's create some instance variables. So var, and here we have kick speed, colon int, assignment operator, for example, 0, var kick power, int, assignment operator 0. So now for this constructor, I can specify some parameters. I can say that we have actually a parameter named kickboxer, kick actually speed, kick speed. Notice that the name of this parameter name is the same as the name of this instance variable. I do it in this way in order to show you the use of this keyword in Kotlin. So kick speed colon int, comma, this is my first parameter, and we have another parameter named kick power colon int. So now let's open and close this constructor by using these curly braces. So inside this constructor here, in order to refer to our instance variable, we must use the this keyword. This dot, for example, kick speed, assignment operator, and now I can refer to this parameter name kick speed. So notice that here, because the name of our parameter here, it is actually kick speed, this is the same as the name of our instance variable. And if you choose to refer to the kick speed without using this keyword, it's going to actually assume, the compiler is going to assume that you are referring to this parameter name instead of the instance variable. In other words, this parameter name is actually shadowing the instance variable. So that's why we use this keyword here in order to explicitly specify that we are referring to our instance variable kick speed. So now let's say that we have a this dot kick power. Here I am referring to the instance variable kick power, assignment operator. Now I want to refer to the parameter name kick power. So this is how we use this keyword in Kotlin. So here, because we created a custom constructor for this kickboxer class, if I actually scroll to the top, you can see that here it's showing us an error, and it says that we haven't actually passed the kick speed and the kick power to the constructor of this kickboxer class here, because we want to create an object of the kickboxer. So let me just comment out this line of code and this one. Now let me talk actually about the super keyword again. Take a look at this Boxer X class. Let's assume that I want to actually provide some parameters for the default constructor of this Boxer X class. So after the name of this Boxer X class, I want to put a pair of parentheses. And here, I want to actually specify that the moment the user or the programmer wants to actually create an object of type Boxer X class, the number of matches won by that object must be specified here. So now I can create a parameter, and the name of this parameter is number of matches won, colon, int. This is a parameter with the type integer. So now if I scroll down here, we can see that it's showing us an error. This means that we haven't actually called the constructor of the superclass because we specified a parameter for this constructor here. For the default constructor, we must specify a value for that parameter, because if you don't put a parameter, or if you don't specify a parameter for the Boxer X default constructor, you don't have to call the constructor of the superclass inside this Kickboxer class. But because here we specified a parameter for the default constructor of this Boxer X class, here we must explicitly call the constructor of the superclass, which is the Boxer class. So here, after the parenthesis of this constructor inside this Kickboxer class, we must put a colon, and we should write super, a pair of parentheses, and now we need to specify the number of matches won by this object. So for example, we can pass an instance variable, or we can actually hard code this value here. It's better to provide another parameter for this custom constructor inside this Kickboxer class. So let's put a comma here, and let's say the number of matches here is number of matches, colon, int. And here we just pass the number of matches to the super constructor here. So the moment that the user actually starts creating an object of type Kickboxer, the user must pass the kick speed, the kick power, and the number of matches. And the number of matches value is going to be passed to this constructor, to the default constructor of the superclass, which is going to be the Boxer X class. So that's it. Now the problem is solved. So let's scroll to the top, and here let me uncomment these two lines of code here. So if I hover here, we can see that we have an error. If I hover over this error area, it says no value passed for parameter kick power, no value passed for parameter kick speed, no value passed for parameter number of matches. So we must pass the arguments in order. So first we must pass the kick speed, the kick power, and finally the number of matches. So let's scroll to the top, and here we want to create an object of type Kickboxer. First we need to specify the kick speed. The kick speed is, for example, 200, comma, the kick power is 300 or 400, comma, and now we need to specify the number of matches won. So for example, 10. Here, kick speed, kick power, number of matches won. Now we have no error. So let me create a new line so that you can see what's going on here. And now I can output these values to the console. I can say, so println my Kickboxer dot kick speed, println my Kickboxer dot kick power, and we cannot actually access the number of matches won because the number of matches won is actually an argument that we specified that here inside the Kickboxer class. We specified a parameter for the constructor. So if you want to, you can just say inside this constructor, we can say println number of matches won. So we can actually output this value to the console when the moment the user actually creates an object of type Kickboxer. So this value is automatically outputted to the console, number of matches. So here you can see that if I just put dot, I cannot access number of matches. It is not an instance variable that we put inside the Kickboxer class. It's just a parameter that we specified for the custom constructor of the Kickboxer class. So now let's run the app. Let me comment out this line of code, my Kickboxer.fight, run, and then super, and this. So here in the console, you can see that first it outputted the number of matches won, because the moment that the user actually creates, the moment the programmer or the developer creates an object of the Kickboxer, the constructor of this Kickboxer, the custom constructor of this Kickboxer class is called. And if I actually scroll down here, you can see that inside this constructor class, we are outputting this value to the console, number of matches won. So first we are assigning or initializing our instance variables, and then this value is outputted to the console. So now, that's why you can see that number 10 is outputted here first, and then we are actually printing some values to the console. We are saying my Kickboxer, the kick speed, which is 200, we can see that in the console, and we have my Kickboxer, the kick power, which this is actually 400. So that's it. If you have any questions about Super and these keywords, please post a discussion in the cards, and then I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.